goodness gracious. Alrighty. Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Wednesday night live stream for week 6 of the 2025 fantasy football season. Who picked up number 84? Yes, Kendrick Bourne is the thumbnail of today's episode, primarily because earlier today, after, of course, I posted my wide receiver rankings video, there was information detailed out that Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings are not going to practice today. Additionally, on top of it, from the mouth of the head honcho, Kyle Shanahan, the head coach of the 49ers, he said that he doesn't expect to potentially see someone specifically in the form of Ricky Pearsall playing this week. So if, in fact, we're going to have Pearsall, Jennings out for another week, and additionally, Mac Jones starting as the QB1 of the 49ers, that just potentially increases the value of Kendrick Bourne in a script against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, in which it should be, pretty heavy passing, considering the rushing upside of McCaffrey just hasn't really been there. So I think Kendrick Bourne is certainly a top 36 option once all those receivers get designated out going into the upcoming week. But as you guys all know, for the next hour plus, we're talking all things fantasy football. So if you guys do have a question, make sure you ask it in the live chat, and or if you want to claim priority, you can send in a super chat. Again, make sure you include all the the primary context to your question, what kind of a scoring format you're in, how many teams are in your league, all that kind of jazz, your win-loss record, because these are different kind of aspects and different kind of variables that we do want to take into account before answering questions, just to keep everything consistent. I hope you guys are doing well on this wonderful Wednesday. Earlier today, I did post my top 36 wide receiver rankings for week 6. Again, as the week progresses, I'm sure rankings are going to change as we get more and more information regarding injuries and all that kind of, information develops regarding Terry McLaurin, Brock Bowers, Alvin Kamara, who popped up with an ankle injury earlier today. All this kind of information certainly of interest. I see that King Mentality says Kamara injured. From the report that was specifically put out to the public, they did say that Kamara was limited today with an ankle injury, but the injury is quote-unquote not serious, and he's currently day-to-day. I'd expect him to play this week. If you want to roster Kendre Miller, that's something of interest. You can go down that path, but I don't think this is going to potentially hold out Kamara this week, unless, of course, they want to make sure he's healthy before they ship him off in a trade, if the possibility of that is to occur. Okay. So let's get into answering some questions, shall we? Before we do, again, for those of you guys who are looking for my upcoming rankings every Sunday morning for the remainder of the season, for my email directly to yours, be sure to check out Betr. Of course, I'll be putting together plays for tomorrow's game, probably at the end of tomorrow's video when we talk about quarterbacks and tight ends, for those of you who are on look of it, specifically looking for that. Otherwise, I can go ahead and potentially share some stuff tonight. Outside of that, let's go ahead and begin. I'm going to throw up questions via the chat right here, via Super. And we'll begin with a first question from Kent. In a half PPR, would you trade Henry away for J.K. Dobbins and Kamara? Look, as of right now, I think once Henry and Lamar are back after their week 7 bye, most likely at that point, we will see the 1-5 Baltimore Ravens try to win 10 consecutive games in a row, which I think they'll probably be able to accomplish. Honestly, unless Kamara is going to completely turn it around and actually wake up, I think I probably just keep Derrick Henry for the long-term kind of value. In the event in which you're in a really rough situation, you can't afford to keep Henry on roster this week, nor potentially, take the impact of him missing next week due to a bye week. If those are things that are potentially going to impact you at a super negative rate, you can technically then take the trade. Outside of that, I'd probably hold on to Derrick Henry for the long haul. Thank you. Darth Raider sends in a question. Thank you, Darth. Trade away Pittman for Waddle. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I think that's a fantastic move. May be a lateral move. No, I think it's better than a lateral move. The way that I see it, Michael Pittman Jr. has very much so been reliant on those touchdowns. In the games in which he is not scoring touchdowns, his target opportunity is not enough for me to justify the idea of leaning in his direction based on how they have performed thus far this season. Of course, very much so run-heavy offense, but there's a lot of threats within the attack as well. I think Waddle, in terms of receptions, yardage, yes, touchdowns eventually in due time, I think he is the more valuable prospect between the two rest of season. So yeah, I'll lean towards Jalen there. Eric sends in a question. Thank you very much, Eric. I appreciate it. It says in a 12-team full PPR. Sorry, doesn't say anything about 12-team. Says, I'm in a full PPR, 1 point per 10 yards receiving, 1 point for 5 yards rushing. Justin Fields or Caleb Williams? It's not even close. It's Justin Fields every day of the week in this circumstance based on the format alone. Also, pick one for the flex, Calvin Ridley, Harvey, or Mason Taylor. Appreciate you. Honestly, I'd like to potentially lean in the direction of most likely playing RJ Harvey here in the form of the Denver Broncos taking on that Jets run stop defense that isn't really worth much. They haven't been able to stop anybody on the ground. And once the garbage time begins to filter in for the Denver Broncos offense, I'd assume that means a lot of attempts for Harvey, which 1 point per 5 rushing yards is a lot of value to be had there. So that's probably the direction I lean in regards to potentially his garbage time collection, just like he did against the Cincinnati Bengals a couple weeks back. Abram sends in a question. Thank you very much. Says May or Herbert this week? I'd lean towards That's a really good question. I want to lean towards Herbert still. That's probably the way I'm going to go in the direction of. Without Omarion Hampton in the lineup, I think there's just a really low likelihood in my mind in which either Hassan Haskins or Kamani Vidal fall into the end zone, comparatively to just being a high level, just passing into a threat for this offense. They're probably going to throw for majority of the game. Expect for 35 passing attempts, if not more, from someone like Herbert this week. Now, I do like the matchup for Drake May. I think specifically how he has looked over the course of the last couple of weeks, especially this most recent game, he looked great, but Herbert is the preferred in terms of fantasy purposes. It says pick 1 running back and 2 flex in a full PPR. We have Henry, Jamar Chase, Quentin Johnston, Javonte Williams, Scat, McConkey, Dowdle, and Pittman. Yeah, as of right now, Jamar Chase, Quentin Johnston, Javonte Williams, those will probably be the 3 that I roll with as of right now in a full PPR format. Thank you. I'm Gucci Upolo sends it a question. Says, I'm currently 3-2 in a full PPR. I traded Daniel Dimes and Pickens for Mahomes and AJB. Yeah, sounds good to me. Mahomes is a huge upgrade there, especially with his rushing upside that he's providing on a weekly basis. And then I obviously prefer AJ Brown over Pickens rest of the season because I do expect him to get back to his elite level of potential production. Says, I have May thoughts. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic trade. That's my primary thoughts on it. Also, do I start AJ Brown or Dobbins? I mean, honestly, you can go with either of the two. Dobbins has been incredible thus far this season, every single week. Again, I mentioned it. In a half PPR scoring format, he has been top 15 for the last 5 games. So he's probably someone that you can just blindly start. But AJ Brown against the Giants secondary, I think it's a little bit too good of a matchup to give up on. So I'd probably roll with AJB there and hope for the upside on a Thursday. Thank you. LZ7 sends in a question. Says PPR double flex 4-1. This is the roster. Trade Collins for Dobbins. Thoughts? Do I want to trade Nico Collins for a running back of the stature of Dobbins? Probably not. Like, I understand that they have comparable value because of what Dobbins has been able to put forth as of late. But personally, I don't love the trade. In this circumstance, I would probably just hold on to what you have. Like, I understand that missing Bucky and Hampton due to injuries is pretty rough as of right now, but you still have Judkins. You still have eventually Bucky Irving probably returning next week. You still have Haskins in the mixing. I don't think this is the trade that I'm making. I'm holding on to Collins. You're 4-1. I'd rather have Collins rest of the way. Thank you. All right, we had a question that came in from Carolina Nurse. Thank you very much. Long time no see. Hope you're doing well. Can you do videos where you only do better picks? Yeah, I mean, usually the better picks that I do, Monday, I suggested one at the end of the episode. Today, I suggested one for a couple wide receivers. Thursday, I suggested at the end of the episode. And Hidden Gems, I also include that at the end of the episode. Just got to go to the timestamps and you'll see it down there. But yeah, that's usually a part of the mix. This most recent week, specifically Monday's hit, but it was an easy one. Last week, I was pretty fortunate. Usually haven't been this season, but last week in terms of the Hidden Gems episode, pretty fortunate in terms of how that turned out with all those players. Thank you. Alex sends in a question. Says Swift or Stevenson in the flex? Yeah, I'll take Swift there. Stevenson's just a little bit too much to kind of rely upon as of right now. With the backfield currently the way it is, they're not really getting much push up front unless he falls into the end zone or gets himself a significant volume of receiving work. I understand that based on the comments from the head coach, Mike Vrabel, they very much so believe in Stevenson, but I'd rather just roll with Swift in this circumstance. Ibrahim sends in a question, says 4-1. Wide receivers are Diggs, AJ Brown, Debo, DK, T, and Evans. Quarterback is Caleb. Do I trade DK Metcalf and T Higgins for Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson? Look, Ibrahim, we talked about this earlier today. In the event in which you are giving up both of these potential options for one of those two, I think you're giving up too much. Like, I like the idea of keeping the wide receiver depth, specifically because of like Evans being out for a little bit more time. Like, I guess technically you can survive with these three until Evans comes back. If I was going to make a trade of this caliber, I would want someone like Lamar, but I don't know if it's necessary to where you have to make a trade of this caliber. I'd rather, honestly, with Caleb, look to try to improve alternate positions, specifically try to make moves at, moving two of these wide receivers for a running back before I go ahead and try to improve upon Caleb, because he's been solid thus far. He's coming off of a bye week, yes, and didn't help you out last week, but I think in terms of the value that he's going to provide, yes, there's a pretty solid drop-off between him and the rest of the field of quarterbacks, specifically when we're mentioning Lamar and Jalen, but it's just tough to move off two receivers in this current iteration of this kind of a trade, especially when like the separation in terms of points per game value between Caleb thus far. Let me see here. Let's just adjust this. Okay, so Caleb thus far this season, 20.5 points per game. Jalen, 20.8. Like, what are you really getting in return? Like a slight bump if you go for Jalen. If you go for Lamar, it works. But again, it's a long-term kind of play in this circumstance, which I'm okay with. But if you're going to go for one of the two, you'd have to go for Lamar. It says also, have Ferg going to keep this up with CD back? Yeah, he should be fine. The way that I see it, Dak Prescott is playing at an MVP level, so everybody around him is just going to continue to benefit. Yes, he'll get less targets going forward, but Ferguson, certainly a huge threat down in the red zone, which they'll continue to find themselves in those situations consistently. Froden sends it a question. Thank you very much. Says, my brother, may seem crazy, but I was offered CD and AJ Brown for my Rice and Debo. Wow, okay. Yeah, sounds good to me. I want to accept it, but needed to speak to the GOAT first. I appreciate that, Froden. Yeah, I'll take it for sure. Give me Lamb, give me AJ Brown. Lamb is expected to most likely, even if he doesn't return next week, let's say he returns in week 8, I'm still comfortable with that and the commitment to him over Rice. And I do prefer AJ Brown over Debo because Terry McLaurin is soon to return. And yes, even though Debo is playing at an all-time high level, I still expect for AJ Brown to get back to his normal state, in which over the course of each of the last 3 seasons, for fantasy purposes, in a half PPR, he's averaged 14 to 15 points per game. So he'll be back there soon enough. So yeah, I'll take the deal. Thank you. Abram sends in a follow-up, says, Mahomes or May this week? It's kind of hard not to play Mahomes every week. I mean, the kind of production he's putting forth, the current situation where they're taking on the Detroit Lions at home, the 52.5 point total is probably the highest one I have seen all season long. The fact that they're home favorites, Mahomes is the play in this circumstance. Pick 2 wide receivers or 1 flex between Flowers, Quentin Johnston, Pittman, Javonte, and Kenneth Walker. In this circumstance, I'd play Javonte for sure at the flex, and then I would play Quentin Johnston and Michael Pittman as my wide receivers there. Also, Walker or Dobbins rest of the season in a half PPR. I'd honestly rather just have Dobbins there. As long as Charbonnet is in the back pocket of Walker, Dobbins is just objectively more valuable at the moment and going forward. Charbonnet would have to go down with the serious injury for Walker to even be remotely close to the value which Dobbins is presenting right now. Drew sends it a question. Thank you, Drew. I appreciate it. It says, my running back room consists of Achane, Bucky, Hampton, Woody. Okay, so we have a bye week and 2 pretty brutal injuries. I need a running back 2 off of the waivers. Here are my options. We have Haskins, we have Hunt, we have Tracy, we have Tucker, and we have Spears. Yeah, okay, sounds good. I mean, I'll go Haskins there very confidently. Taking on the Miami Dolphins defense that could not stop the run last week, could not tackle Rico Dowdle to save their lives. I think that's a pretty solid option to go in the direction of. Spears is still ramping up, and they're still going to, slowly but surely kind of drip feed him some opportunities. Still not going to be a startable option based on what we witnessed last week. Trey Tucker is irrelevant based on his opportunity of workload. Tracy has been pretty much, in my mind, lost his job to Cam Scatterboo. Hunt has to fall into the end zone. I think Haskins is the main priority, and obviously he's the backup and fill in for Hampton for the next 4 weeks. So yeah, we'll just fill in with that. Thank you, Drew. Frank Grillo sends it a question. Says, Laporta or Goddard? It's a really good question. Let me see. I'm curious how the Giants have played against tight ends this season. Let's pull this up really quickly. So in terms of Giants against tight ends as of late, over the course of the last couple weeks, they've taken on Juwan Johnson, 2 catches for 17. The Chargers tight ends don't really do much. Travis Kelce, 4 for 26. Ferguson, 9 for 78. And then Ertz with a touchdown to save his week. In comparison to Laporta against Kansas City, let's see what Kansas City looks like in terms of their tight end. They're really good at stopping tight ends. If I was going to make a suggestion, genuinely, I'd rather just play Goddard. I know Laporta's coming off a huge week here, but that's primarily because they played against Cincinnati. The Chiefs have been incredible in terms of stopping tight ends, and it's not just this season. It's been for multi-seasons in a row. So I'd probably just roll with Goddard there. As for Daniel Jones or Drake May, as of this week, that's a really good question as well. Let's see where we have the potential of these two. Drake May, Daniel. Yeah, I'll just take Drake May there at that point. I'm okay with that. Sounds good to me. Thank you. Octavio says questions in the chat. Octavio, thank you, my man. Says in a 10-team full PPR, 6 point per passing touchdown. JD5, Marvin Harrison, Waddle, Brees, Genty, McBride, Pearsall. That's my bench. I'm 2 and 3. I lost neighbors. Should I be looking for trades? I mean, look, JD5, Marvin, Waddle, Brees, Genty, McBride, Pearsall. Pearsall's not going to play this week. Golden's not startable. Woody's not startable. Charbonnet's okay. Rashee Rice is soon coming back. Vidal Benson. No, I don't think you're in need of a potential trade. I think you hold. I think you can keep it rolling. Obviously, once Rashee Rice returns, obviously your number 3 wide receiver gets a huge bump there, and he'll play in the flex in a full PPR at a pretty consistent rate. I like the team, how it's currently constructed. I'm very confident in their potential going forward. I only think that Marvin Harrison is getting better. Waddle only getting exposed to this role now, and Genty and Brees are kind of stepping into their own. So as of right now, I'm not really making any moves unless somebody is fire sailing their team and handing out, I don't know, someone's going to send you CeeDee Lamb for Rashee Rice. Unless someone's doing that to help you out, sounds good to me. Or someone's going to send over the potential of maybe, let's say, for example, you don't really have running back depth, so you can't even make it. Like maybe if you take Charbonnet and send it to the Walker manager, if they want to go ahead and give you something in return that is of value to which you can kind of roll into your RB situation, sure. Otherwise, no, I don't make any moves. I hold as is. Thank you. William sends in a question. Says full PPR, BTJ versus Seattle or Garrett Wilson versus Denver. I have them, I think, back-to-back ranked as of earlier today. Garrett Wilson versus Patrick Surtain is not as enticing as BTJ versus Seattle, but in the same vein, like BTJ doesn't get enough opportunity for me to justify a play like that over Garrett Wilson, who in garbage time will be able to at least accumulate, in my mind, more statistics than a BTJ. So I'll just go with Garrett Wilson in that circumstance. And despite how much I like this matchup comparatively, again, the BTJ upside of opportunity just isn't there on a consistent enough basis comparatively. Sean Howard sends in a question, says start Michael Badgley or Eddie Pinheiro for kicker. Look, the way that I see it, Eddie Pinheiro, because the 49ers don't have a bye week until, if I'm not mistaken, week 14, he can be your starting kicker every week for the remainder of the season. As of right now, in terms of point per game averages amongst all kickers, if I'm not mistaken, I do believe he's number 1 in the league. Let me just confirm this real quick, and I'll let you guys know in a second. Yeah, as of right now, in terms of points per game average, Eddie Pinheiro is the number 1 kicker amongst all, averaging 11.5 fantasy points per game. He has made 100% of his field goals, 11 of 11 in the last 4 games, and he's made 6 of 7 PATs. I'd be pretty confident in that direction. Now, obviously, the number 2 kicker thus far this season has been Spencer Schrader, averaging 11.4 points per game, and Michael Badgley will be filling in for him. So it's just purely a matter of like whatever way you want to go about it. I think associating your kicker with that Colts offense who continues to score as much is not a bad idea. I just like the idea of Pinheiro not going on a bye until week 14, so in which I don't have to replace a kicker or have to worry about any sort of waiver priority there. Thank you. All right, we continue on with a question that comes in from Matt Repko, who says, trade Cook, McLaurin, Scat for Christian McCaffrey and Javonte Williams. Yeah, I'll take that. That sounds good to me. If I'm able to get 2 potential top 8 running backs, top 6 running backs in exchange for 1, 2. I mean, look, here's the thing. Scat, the assumption is, the underlying assumption is that Scat, associated with this offense, maybe loses a little bit of receiving depth, or not receiving depth, receiving a kind of opportunity share with Tracy running, or getting some run in the future weeks after he comes back from his injury. Additionally, the running of the quarterback obviously hurts his upside near the red zone. McLaurin, when he comes back, is going to be solid, but maybe a lesser option, maybe the number 2 in comparison to Debo. I don't mind the idea of going for the Christian McCaffrey, Javonte Williams side of this, primarily because of this PPR format and how much value they both get in that circumstance. So yeah, I don't mind it. I'm okay with that. Romeo sends in a question. Says in a 12-team half PPR, I traded Ladd, White, and Ridley for Pittman and Scat. Thoughts? Yeah, that's fine by me. I mean, I think Ridley, you're selling him high. White, you're pretty much just selling him until Bucky comes back. And Ladd McConkey, I think there's pretty similar value against Pittman here. I would even argue that Pittman maybe has even more value rest of the way. So yeah, you're getting a free scat out of these two, to which that's a fantastic trade in your end, Romeo. Congrats. LZ7 says PPR double flex league. Purdy over Baker. I don't think Purdy's playing this week. So in no circumstance am I playing him. Even if he was playing this week, I wouldn't, because Pearsall and Jennings are likely not to play. So Baker 100% of the way there. I'm going against Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, it's Baker. Thank you. Amazing AJ sends in a question. AJ, thank you. Says, I need 2 flex between Ridley, Myers, Carter, and Warren. It depends on format, I think. I mean, it also depends on a couple other factors. Like, is Brock Bowers going to be active this week? All that kind of jazz. As of this moment, if it's a full PPR scoring format, I could justify just rolling with both these. If it's a half PPR, I'll probably just go with both running backs and just roll it like that for now. Thank you. Mo Money sends in a question. Says, trade Rome Odunze and Alvin Kamara for Saquon and Pearsall. Wow, interesting question. Okay. Well, look, Pearsall's probably not going to play this week. So the question just remains, like, can you afford to make a trade of this caliber to where you are trading for Pearsall, and eventually once Pearsall returns, we'll have a healthy Purdy, healthy Jennings, healthy Kittle, healthy McCaffrey, and maybe even the return of Brandon Ayuk, to where his competition becomes so intensive to where it makes him an incredibly lesser option. That's the issue here. Pearsall's value this offseason was based on the fact that he wasn't going to have to compete for very many targets, under the assumption that, of course, there was, him prioritized over Jennings, who was injured prior to the season beginning, and additionally, no Ayuk. And now that you bring both of those kind of value points back into the mix, it does diminish his value. Let's see. It's a double wide receiver, double flex format. My team consisting of Mayfields, Judkins, AK, Trevion Henderson, RJ Haskins, Amon-Ra, JSN, Rome, BTJ, Worthy, Shaheed, and Kelsey. It's a really interesting question. To make... I'm going to assume that the other team here is very much so holding on to the Alvin Kamara side, being like very contingent on it. Because truthfully, if I could just move Rome for Saquon in a 1-for-1 circumstance, I'm cool with that. While I still be able to keep AK, if you could potentially explore that possibility, or instead of shipping off, I just don't want to lose running back depth in this circumstance, because your wide receivers are stacked. It's just a matter of, can we survive running back depth by making this trade? I'm okay with the trade. I don't love it though. I'll put it that way. I'd like to try to keep Alvin Kamara if possible and just go 1-for-1 Rome for sake. Joshua Wilkins says, in a half PPR, I'm 2-3. I have Mahomes and Fields as my QB1. Okay, so you got a really good duo, but I would look to probably try to trade one of them if you're not playing in a Superflex 2 QB league. Says, if I could trade either for Breece Hall, do I pull the trigger? Yeah, I would. I mean, considering your running backs are as such, I still feel like it's worth the trade ultimately, because you're getting the running back depth that you require, to which you can start Genty, Kyron, and then also Breece in your flex. I think it gives enough depth also for upcoming bye weeks and injuries, to where you are in a really good, strong standpoint. To which, if I could move one of these 2 quarterbacks, I'd probably ship Fields. I think that's the way I go about it as of right now. Thank you. Alejo sends in a question, says, full PPR trade idea for shipping Devontae Smith for Chris Olave, with Olave trade rumors looming. I don't know exactly what the quote-unquote trade rumors that are looming. I haven't heard any of that. Again, a lot of it is just, I don't know, artificially created just to kind of stir some names up. Not 100% certain to the legitimacy of a trade in which Olave is going to be shipped. If he would be shipped, very difficult to potentially predict where he would end up. So if you want to make the trade, I think they have equal value based on just the sheer volume of opportunity that Chris Olave gets exposed to. So yeah, I don't mind the idea in which you're trading for Olave, just purely because in a full PPR, I do find him to be more valuable the rest of the season anyway. All right, can't get right. Sends in a question. Says, Haskins, Vidal, or DeMercado? Picking one, struggling. Yeah, it's going to be Haskins here. DeMercado is not trustable. Vidal is coming off the practice squad. I'd just go with Haskins there as the primary. Visceral sends in a question, says, Higgins or Chase Brown in a full PPR? That's a really good question. I really just don't like the idea of moving with... Look, here's the thing. Chase Brown could catch the ball 8 times this week and be a fantastic play. And we just don't know whether that's going to be the case. It's incredibly difficult to kind of predict what the Joe Flacco-led offense is going to look like, to which I probably just lean towards going with Higgins there. I feel a little bit more confident in the idea in a negative game script against Green Bay, to which they're airing it out. And sure, Chase Brown could turn into a check down king in the game, but I'd just rather lean towards the wide receivers in this circumstance. Thank you. Dylan Lou sends in a question, says, this one is long. I just traded Kraft, Swift, and Rome for T. Higgins, Tyler Warren, and Rashi. I'm assuming that's Tyler Warren because of the Kraft aspect of this trade. And Rashi Rice. Okay. Now I want to take Rome Odunze and Swift back for T. Sutton and Judkins. Now you want to take it back for T. Sutton and Judkins. I don't understand why you would do that. Arguably, Rome and Swift, I think it has equivalent value to Sutton and Judkins, to which actually I prefer Sutton and Judkins. So as of right now, having shipped off Rome, Kraft, and Swift for T. Warren and Rashi, you keep it as is. You don't need to go back and crawl back for Swift. It's not necessary. I think this in the long run is going to be really valuable because Rashi Rice is going to be the primary kind of threat here. Like, Warren is already better than Kraft. Rashi Rice, once he returns, is going to be better than Rome. And losing Swift, considering your running backs currently consist of Judkins, Christian McCaffrey, and you have Carter until Benson returns, I don't think you need to make a move in this capacity. I think you made a great trade to begin with. Don't make a mistake by making another one. Thank you. Omar the Grouch says, trade Scary Terry for Hassan Haskins for Kamara and Algier. Yeah, I mean, as of right now, I don't see why not. In terms of Scary Terry for Kamara, equal value considering both of them haven't really done much this season. Hassan Haskins versus Algier. Hassan Haskins has a 4-week plug-in. Algier has rest of season value and is one of the most valuable handcuffs in fantasy. So yeah, I'll take the Kamara Algier side. Sounds good to me. Thank you. Visceral sends in a follow-up, says, I just traded Garrett Wilson, Judkins, and Kyron for Gibbs, Tedderole, McMillan, and Chase Brown. Interesting. I don't know if I love that trade. I'm going to be honest. You are leaving a lot of your potential future up to these two gentlemen, Tedderole, McMillan, and Chase Brown. If they do not turn it up real quick here, we are in absolute deep trouble because Garrett Wilson's on fire. Judkins can't be stopped, and they can run the ball on anyone. And Kyron Williams has played great, and I think he's only going to continue to get better once those rushing touchdowns near the red zone start to accumulate, considering he was number one in that category last season amongst all running backs. So you are really putting your faith into these two gentlemen, and for your sake, Visceral, I'm hoping they're going to pop off. And I hope that Joe Flacco's emergence in this offense able to elevate Chase Brown to back to what he was last year. I doubt it because the offensive line's not really helping. But in regards to Tedderole and McMillan, he's got a great matchup this week, but then he just has to continue to compound that into week after week of great performances. Like when I look at the Panthers' schedule here, it scares me. Like when he has to take on Sauce Gardner the next week, then the Buffalo defense, who's great at shutting down one singular receiver when they want to, then they have to take on Green Bay. Like, just the next couple weeks here, not the greatest overall situation despite all the target opportunity he gets. So very much so dependent on those two. In your case, I'm hoping it all pans out. All right, continuing on, we had a question from Abram, as a follow-up. PPR, one flex and one running back. Henry, Scat, McConkey, Pittman, or Dowdle. As of this week, I really like the idea of playing Dowdle as my RB and then probably just leaning towards... In a full PPR, do I want to play Scat as my... I kind of want to play Scat and Dowdle, but I think it's probably safest to just go with Pittman and Dowdle in this circumstance. That's probably the direction that's the safer application of this. Thank you. Also, it says Pittman, Keenan Allen, Trey Tucker, Diggs, Shaheed, and McConkey, rest of season PPR. If I'm ranking them rest of season, as of this moment, I'd probably go Pittman number 1. I go McConkey 2. I go Keenan out. No, excuse me. Yeah. Pittman. Wait, hold on. Let me think about it. Yeah. Pittman. Ooh, wow. Diggs is a good one. Let me think about this. Pittman, McConkey, Diggs, Keenan, Shaheed, Tucker. I'll keep it as that. I'll commit. Thank you. All right. Continuing on. Jordy Peasy. What's up, Jordy? Hope you're doing well, my man. This is in a half PPR 12-team league. I'm 2-3. My quarterback is this. My roster consists of this. The guy I'm playing this week is offering Brees, Bowers, JMO for Genty and Pittman. No, not too interested. I prefer Genty over I prefer Genty over Brees. And JMO as of right now really doesn't hold much value. Like, I understand the idea of trading for Bowers in this circumstance, but I feel like you're giving up a lot. And there's so many questions in my mind that still have yet to be answered regarding Bowers' status and whether he'll get back to a normal state of where he can be 80% of his normal self, to which at the moment, I would rather look towards another avenue of getting a tight end rather than this one. I would rather just send a Pittman straight up for a wide receiver, send a Pittman straight up for a Tucker Kraft or a Tyler Warren rather than having to ship Genty in the means of this. Thank you. Zach sends in a question. Says, in a standard non-PPR league, and need to pick two wide receivers between Devontae Adams, JSN, Debo, and Rome. Thanks. Brother, I mean, you've got the pick of the litter. I mean, ultimately, non-PPR, really, I don't think there's a wrong answer here. I think all of them are going to probably find themselves in the end zone this week. If I had to choose two, I'm picking JSN and Debo. But I think there's a good argument for Adams and Rome that could each score 2 touchdowns this week. Like, you've just got too many good players. I would ask who's playing in your flex because, quite frankly, I'd like to play at least 3 of these guys at minimum. But if you can't, because if you just got a stacked team there, Zach, JSN and Debo are my suggestions. Thank you. Abide Los Angeles says, happy birthday. Go questions in the chat. Thank you very much, Abide. I appreciate it. Says, do you think Garrett Wilson will regress with the upcoming schedule? I mean, this week is not pretty, that's for sure. But let's see what the upcoming schedule looks like. Panthers, no problem. Bengals, no problem. Browns, no problem. Then you have the Patriots, which I don't like. Then you have the Ravens, which is fine. Falcons is okay. Dolphins is okay. Jaguars is okay. Yeah, I don't really think there's a big issue. Obviously, there's a couple tough matchups with, Sauce Gardner, Christian Gonzalez, AJ Terrell. Like, those are matchups that are, of course, something to keep an eye on, but I don't think it's enough to where I'm, like, ditching Garrett Wilson. He's clearing away the number one of the offense. They're going to have to throw the ball. Justin Fields looks like a proficient, comfortable quarterback, not turning over the ball, finding his number one at a consistent rate. So, no, I don't think you need to trade him. If you were going to trade him, that's fine. You can go ship him off for Javonte Williams pretty easily, I'm assuming. QJ for Garrett? Like what? Like, you're thinking Quinshon Judkins by sending away Garrett? I want more in return. Thank you. Charles sends in a question. Thank you very much, Charles. I appreciate it. Says, in a PPR, do I trade away Puka and K9 for Bijan, Chase Brown, Lad McConkey, and Debo? Wow. Okay, my roster consists of K9, Javonte, Hubbard, Myers, Puka, Rice, Sutton, Laporte. I mean, okay, so here's my thought process. So, not even a thought process. Charles, here's my immediate question. How many wide receivers and how many flex can I start every single week? Because if you're playing in a triple wide receiver, 1 flex, or double wide receiver, double flex format, to which you can start a lot of these players, I could see this trade being one that I'd be interested in because I'd be able to theoretically start Sutton, Rice, Ladd, and Debo as my 3 wide receivers, 1 flex, or double wide receiver, double flex. And then I will have Bijan and Javonte as my RBs. And then theoretically, in the event in which Chase Brown actually wakes up and is able to produce, he can start over a Ladd McConkey or a Debo or for anybody for the upcoming bye weeks ahead. So in this circumstance, I'm very much so open to it under the assumption that I am playing in a triple wide receiver, 1 flex format or double wide receiver, double flex. If not, I think there's less incentive to make a trade of this caliber as you can just start, Javonte K9, even Javonte, okay. Puka, Sutton, Rice, Javonte K9. Honestly, I think you even take the trade even if you can't. But man, I really do hope you can play with 3 wide receivers, 1 flex, or double wide receiver, double flex. If that's the case, let's make it. SR20 Mar says, I have Detroit's defense. Should I drop James Mason, as in Jordan Mason, or Mason Taylor for the Rams defense? Let me look at Detroit's upcoming schedule. Lions schedule here. So they play against Kansas City. Obviously, I'm not interested in playing that defense, and nor am I interested in playing them against the Buccaneers, the Vikings, the Commanders, the Eagles. So in the next 5 weeks, I have no interest in playing the Detroit defense. They're dropped. They're off my lineup, and I'm picking up the Rams. Neither of these two get dropped. Thank you. Joe R sends in a question. Joe, thank you very much. Appreciate it, my man. Says, fix my lineup, brother. I will try my best. Let's see what we have here. Says, I'm in a Superflex full PPR. Very well. Says, I have Josh Allen. Okay, beautiful. So who's your other quarterback? Jackson Dart. Okay, sounds good. Who do we have on the bench at quarterback? Haskins, Flowers. Okay, so we don't have another quarterback. That's fine. Pollard, White. Sounds good for this week. Personally, I would probably, in a full PPR Superflex format, taking on the Raiders, I could justify it there. Considering what this shootout potentially entails between Detroit and Kansas City, I probably legitimately just going to play Montgomery over Pollard now. So I'll just take Montgomery and White there at running back. Agbuka stays, JSN stays, Tyler Warren stays, and then I'm leaving Pittman there. So that's the only swap that I make. I'll just take Montgomery into the starting lineup, and you're good to go. Thank you. Basa B sends in a question. Says, in the 12-team standard format, updated wide receivers since yesterday, live, we have A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Torrey Horton, and Kendrick Bourne, and Ryan Flournoy. P.S. Someone dropped Rice, and I have the waiver pending to pick him up. Yeah, absolutely. If it is a priority waiver pickup and you have number one priority, pick up Rashee Rice. If it's a fab, I would legitimately empty the entire clip. So yeah, make sure you get Rice there. I think that'll certainly help you. In the meanwhile, A.J. Brown and Kendrick Bourne will be your starters this week. Basa. So I think that's a huge upgrade going forward. And again, I like you were mentioning yesterday, it wasn't necessary to make that trade that you were kind of going over. Unfortunately, it's not updating here, but yeah, I think you can hold and keep it moving. Nick sends in a question. Says, Pinheiro or Matt Gay rest of season? I'd rather have Pinheiro. They don't have a bye until week 14. You don't have to worry about swapping your kicker. You can just start him every week henceforth. Abram says, Pittman or Flowers rest of season? That's a really good question. I think it just depends on what kind of value you're looking for in terms of the rest of season conversation. Because when I'm looking towards Flowers versus Pittman, I begin to question, like, okay, what does the Ravens schedule look like at the back end of the year? To which, like, what can I expect in the final 3 weeks? They take on Cincinnati, New England, and the Green Bay Packers. I'm not in love with those matchups, but I feel like they could be shootouts because every single one of those teams are going to be really trying to push the ball. If you can afford to wait on Flowers until Lamar's return in week 8, then yeah, I'd probably go Flowers. But in the event in which you're like, well, Andrew, right now I'm sitting at 2-3, 1-4. I need a little bit of value right now in the short term to try to stack up some wins so I can try to make the playoffs. Then you just hold. You keep Pittman. Let's see here. Abram says, okay, thank you again, Abram. I appreciate it. Ryan Luckin sends in a question, says, I'm stashing a running back specifically for week 8. Who do I grab for a PPR? I can grab Stevenson, Hunt, Haskins, or Gainwell. Okay, Ryan, thank you again for sending in the question. Let me see what week 8 of the NFL has in store for us. Let's see what the schedule looks like so that I can kind of give you an understanding as to which direction I'm going in. So as of right now, in week 8, we have the Cardinals, Lions, Jaguars, Raiders, Rams, and Seahawks all on bye. It is the bipocalypse of all bipocalypse. So it's as bad as it gets. So I'm assuming that's why you are potentially looking to pick up somebody early. We have Ramondre versus Cleveland. I don't want to go ahead and explore that. No, thank you. We have Kareem Hunt versus Washington. We have Haskins versus the Vikings and Gainwell. Yeah, I'll take Haskins. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Haskins, by that point, still be the starter. The Vikings can't stop the run. They can't stop a nosebleed either. It's a Thursday night game at Los Angeles. I'll go with Haskins in this circumstance, specifically for week 8. If we're talking about rest of season value, I would rather just roster Stevenson because I know he'll be in the mix long term. But in terms of that matchup in specific, Haskins is the better one of the group. Nick Lothar sends in a question. Says, full PPR, I'm currently 5-0. Do I trade Christian McCaffrey for Bijan and Woody? Just out of pure principle, I think you kind of have to make this trade. I don't care for Woody, and neither do the Houston Texans, because Mixon's eventually going to return. Just in terms of one-for-one value between Bijan Robinson and Christian McCaffrey, I would like to assume that Christian McCaffrey's per-game averages of receiving workload, specifically 10 targets per game, is going to diminish greatly once we do see the return of Pearsall, Ayuk, Kittle, and Jennings into the starting lineup. So those numbers are unsustainable. Unless he's going to pull off an Austin Eckler and just never stop. I would probably, I'd feel pretty comfortable with the idea of shipping in the direction of getting Bijan Robinson. I'm pretty confident in that idea. So yeah, give me Bijan there. Thank you. Marvin Lewis sends in a question. Thank you, Marvin. I appreciate it, my man. Honestly, really quickly before I get to Marvin, Nick, if they want to just give you Christian McCaffrey for Bijan 1-for-1, I'll just take Bijan. Genuinely. I don't need to have Woody Marks on my team. He just fills a bench spot that I don't want to fill unless you do. If you want to, go for it. All right, let's see here. Marvin Lewis says standard, pick one, start. Caleb or Daniels. I'd prefer to have Caleb Williams as my quarterback this week. Next question, pick two for the flex. White, DeMercado, Harvey, Iomanner, Pitts, Ingram, or Mason Taylor. Rashad White plays, assuming Bucky Irving is out. And additionally, next to him, in a standard scoring format, 0 points per reception, I probably just go with Harvey and hope for the best in garbage time. Then also pick Pitts, Taylor, or Ingram this week. Kyle Pitts versus Buffalo. Not really too interested in that. I'd probably just end up playing Mason Taylor there. A defense, Pittsburgh, Las Vegas, LA, or Tampa. Let me see where I have defenses currently structured out. Let's see here. I mean, honestly, I could go with either Pittsburgh or the LA Rams. I could justify playing Las Vegas into Tennessee, but I'm not going to. I don't really want to mess around with Mac Jones again because he burnt me last time. So, I could see a way in which the LA Rams kind of do some absolute nonsensical malpractice and just give up 3 points. I'll just take Pittsburgh in this week. Thank you. All right. El Pollo 33 says PPR flex, Shaheed, Bourne, Wandell, Ridley, Franklin. Okay. In my flex, under the assumption that we get a confirmation that Pearsall and Jennings are going to be inactive, Kendrick Bourne is the auto start. Then after that, we would go with Ridley. Then we would go with Wandell. Then we would go with Troy Franklin. Then we would go with Shaheed. That's the order. Thank you. Zach sends in a follow-up, says, also, I was wondering if I should make any trades in a full PPR. I have Jaden Daniels and Justin Fields. Okay. So obviously we're probably looking to, I don't know if I want to give away Fields just yet, considering you have Jaden Daniels, because Jaden Daniels' knee injury, I'm just afraid now. To which I think it's probably wise just to hold on to Fields, because I honestly think that Fields is, especially within the upcoming weeks, could be even a better outright play than him. So for now, just hold. You have Gibbs, JCM, Judkins, beautiful, love that trio. Adams, Rome, JSN, Debo, Pittman. Brother, you don't need to do anything. No trades are necessary. You are in such a premier position to find success as the season progresses. The only thing is, like, who's filling in for Kittle? And I mean, shoot, you probably don't even have to wait very long until Kittle returns. I would assume week 7, 8, probably week 8 if we're being safe. Kittle will be returning, but damn, this is a fucking good team, man. Really, it is as good as I've seen in a while. All right, John War says in a PPR, pick two in the for the flex. We have T. Higgins, RJ Harvey, Theo. Thanks, Andrew. T. Higgins probably plays. Theo Johnson's risky, but I probably roll him as well in a full PPR. Thank you. Isaac Smith sends in a question. Says, I made a trade for Amon-Ra. Concerned with injury. Am I concerned with injury? Is Amon-Ra injured? This is the first I'm hearing of it. Give me a moment. Let me just let me review my sources here. Amon-Ra. What do we got here? Amon-Ra held out of practice with a wrist injury. Okay. Depends on how let's see here. This is the first appearance of the injury report for Amon-Ra St. Brown. The Lions are doing a good job of resting veterans throughout the weeks, so fantasy managers shouldn't panic just yet. This is a report from Roto World, by the way. It is, however, a situation to monitor throughout the week. Jameson Williams could finally get some actual workload. We'll see. As of right now, am I concerned until there's any sort of further information that develops regarding his injury? Like, I'd begin to get concerned if he misses Friday's practice. That's the only time in which I'll finally kind of pull concern. Otherwise, I think this is just normal. It's just him being rested. Romeo Dobbs or Rashid Shaheed, full PPR. I'd probably lean towards Romeo Dobbs in this circumstance against Cincinnati. Thank you. Nathan Gutierrez sends in a question. Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate it. Says, I'm back, Andrew. I just picked up Stevenson, Haskins, Kupp, Waller on the waivers. Running backs are Henry, Hubbard, Wide receivers are Drake London, Jacoby Myers, Rashee Rice, Thornton, as in Taekwon, Hunter, okay, as in Travis, Waller, and TJ Hawkinson are my tight ends. What do you think I should trade, and who do I start? Well, if we're looking at starter sit questions, I think that's a little bit easier as we approach this week. Haskins, it's probably not even, is it Haskins? It's probably like a Haskins and Henry start this week between the two running backs. Drake London probably plays alongside of most likely Jacoby Myers. Waller's your tight end. Quarterback, whoever it is, you're firing him up. As for your flex position between the bunch, could end up being Stevenson in this circumstance. I probably say that is most likely the case. If you're making trades, I mean, in your current position, Nathan, at 1 and 4, I think you have to trade Derrick Henry. I know you'd have to sell him low, but considering he has an unfortunate reality of the toughest running back matchup this week, then a bye week next week, if he doesn't perform and you don't have somebody suitable that is going to give you a serious amount of points there, you could end up being 1 and 6 by the end of week 8. End of week 7. So I would probably be looking to move Henry. Try to get some running back depth in return. I think that's incredibly important. Now, if in fact somebody's willing to offer you a wide receiver, I'd also be willing to go down that path under the assumption that we play in a full PPR, because I think Stevenson, Haskins, once Hubbard returns, you'll be okay, to which they can suffice in the absence of Henry, as long as you're still bringing in someone that is going to contribute a really solid amount of points. So go around your league, see who's in desperate need of running back, and see if they would take Henry in exchange for the potential of a wide receiver, or even a running back in exchange that is at least not going to have a bye week upcoming and is associated with right now a better offense that can at least help you win. Black Jesus sends in a question. It says full PPR. Pearsall out, Jennings and Bourne on the waivers. Do I drop Stevenson, Harvey, Dowdle, Michael Carter, or Golden, or just start Jameson and Higgins? I mean, personally, in the event in which we get confirmation that Juwan Jennings and Pearsall are out, I would rather just play Bourne over Jameson. And I would just, at that point, play Higgins and Bourne this week. So am I dropping any of these players? I mean, Golden could be considered a drop in this circumstance. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. I'm playing Dowdle this week. So Dowdle and Higgins are just the guys that you would roll with, that you could just play this week, and you don't even have to make a move until Pearsall goes to your IR. Then from once he goes to your IR, it'll open up a roster spot to which you could pick up Jennings or Bourne. But for now, just roll with Dowdle and Higgins until further notice. And if the opportunity presents itself, you could play Bourne over Higgins later this week. Thank you. Peace and blessings. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, my man. Says, I need to start one wide receiver and flex another player. Okay. Please don't judge my selections. No, I don't judge, brother. Don't worry. Golden, Bond, and Carter. Yeah, Michael Carter should play, and so should Golden. I'm not too interested in playing Isaiah Bond against the Steelers as of this week. Thank you. Luke C sends in a question. Says, PPR, I lost Connor. I have Ladd, Jacobs for Rice / Montgomery. I have Ladd, Jacobs for Rice and Montgomery. Oh, this is not Ladd and Jacobs. This is Jacobs for Rice and Montgomery. I understand now. To which, honestly, I'm okay with this trade. If it's a full PPR, which it is, if it's Jacobs for these two, I'm cool with that. Thank you. Tosh.0 says, should I trade Golden for Shakir? Under the assumption that you need wide receiver depth that is actually going to be sufficiently providing points, then yes. I think Golden is just like he's the golden goose. He's an egg that is a lottery ticket at this point. If he pans out, he pounds out. But ultimately, I think if you just need immediate points right now for a flexible option in a PPR, Shakir's a great answer for that. Rogo says, sup, bro? Drop Demercado for Tucker, Tracy, Tootin, Isaiah Davis. Thank you. I think Trey Tucker could start under the assumption that you need a flexible option this week in the top 40 wide receiver capacity. Otherwise, if I'm making a drop for Demercado, I'd probably go pick up Isaiah Davis just in case. PC says no Turpin / CeeDee Lamb, Flournoy or Godwin. How close are they? Godwin popped up on the injury report earlier today with a fibula injury, to which I'm thinking his ankle, the dislocated ankle that he had sustained, there's a possibility where we have an issue there. So let's hold both of these for now. Based on what we see from Godwin's health as the week progresses, it could make the decision for us if he doesn't play. In the event in which he doesn't, you play Flournoy. In the event in which he gets a full practice by Friday, I probably still go with Godwin there. Because I don't expect Flournoy to just completely make Jalen Tolbert disappear every week. Easy E says, thanks. KB, happy birthday. Questions in the chat. Thank you very much, my man. Full PPR, I'm starting Knicks, JSN, Quentin Johnston, Gibbs, Rico, Flex, London, or Walker. Yeah, I'll take London there in a full PPR. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's very easy. Flotation says, I have 2 questions on X. Thanks for the help. Yeah, no problem. Let me see if I can get my phone real quick, and we'll see what we have here. I see a lot of... Why is there so many reports? The Jaguars made a trade. Interesting. Who did they trade for? Jaguars signed Tyson Campbell to a 4-year extension. Okay, but that does not mean anything about a trade. Let me see this. Jaguars get Greg Newsome and the Jets 2020. Wow. Oh, Tyson. Oh, my goodness. And the Browns get Tyson Campbell? Really? I didn't expect the Browns to be in business for making trades right now, but I guess they are. They're feeling good. Okay. We'll see where this goes. Anyway, let's look at your team here, Ty. Okay, so what's your question? Okay, so let's see here. Did you have any specific questions? No, I think it's probably on X if I had to guess. Okay, so you have 2 questions here. It says trade offer ideas. Trade Gibbs and DJ Moore or another receiver for Judkins, Genty, Brown. Or Bourne, excuse me, not Brown. Yeah, I don't mind that idea at all because I think the depth at which you are gaining with Judkins and Genty is worth it. I'm okay with that, especially in your kind of a league where your current record sits at where it is. I think you need to make a move, and I'm perfectly fine making that trade. As for your second question, you said trade Gibbs for Kyron and Olave. I'd rather just have the Judkins Genty move, genuinely. It says keep the same team, make adjustments. No, I like the trade. I like the Genty/Judkins appeal going forward. Thank you. Jinx sends in a question. Jinx, thank you very much. Says in a 12-team half PPR double flex format, any moves? We're 4-1. We have Caleb, Bucky, Henry, Carter, Charbonnet, Puka, JSN, Ladd, Myers, Tyler Warren. Thoughts on Haskins, Vidal waiver? Yeah, I'll take Haskins there going forward. I mean, if they're both available and you have multiple roster spots, you can just hold them both and kind of let it figure itself out. But as of right now, I don't think you need to make any moves at 4-1. In the event in which someone in your league is looking to potentially ship off CeeDee Lamb because they're starting 1-4, 2-3, and they can't afford for his return, same thing with like a Rashee Rice. In the event in which you can buy low on those kind of prospects, I'm very much so interested in that approach. So I'd explore those opportunities and or conversations in the event in which you could. I mean, ultimately at 4-1, anytime I'm 4-1 in a league, I'm trying to bully the teams at the bottom of the waiver, the bottom of the standings into making trades. Basically just in their ear like, hey, you're 1-4, you lose another week here, you pretty much have to win 7 in a row in order to make the playoffs. So you might be, you might need to make a move here. So like if someone in your league just had Nico Collins or Justin Jefferson go to the bye week and they're in a really tough position, maybe you can explore the potential of sending away a Ladd McConkey there and maybe getting something back. Maybe Ladd and Myers to get back a JJ. I don't know. There's many things in which you can accomplish. Just depends on how open your league mates are to trades. But if you can go buy low on potential options like a Rice, Lamb, that's the priority that I would probably lean towards if you can. Appreciate it. Okay, let's see here. We had a question that came in from Christian who says, I need to start 2 flexes, and I have Ridley, Godwin, Golden, Coleman, Chase Brown, and Derrick Henry and Scat. Yeah, as of right now, I'd probably just play these 2. Give me Derrick Henry and Scat. That's probably the direction I go, and I'm pretty comfortable with those guys. Thank you. All right, Louis sends in a question. Says, I started off, I'm 1-4. I'm in a 12-team half PPR league. My quarterback is Love and Stafford. Brown, Hampton, Sharp, Warren, and Haskins at running back, wide receivers, Lamb, Evans, McConkey, Sutton, Pearsall, Henry, and Kincaid, and Taylor at tight end. Any suggestions for trades? Lamb and Evans have to go. I don't know if we can wait. I mean, like, you could wait, Luis, under the assumption that in a 12-team league that you're in, let's say 8 teams make the playoffs. If they do, beautiful. You don't have to rush. You don't have to make any moves. But in the event in which only 6 make the playoffs, Hampton's got to be traded tomorrow. Lamb and Evans should have been moved already. And we got to go. We got to start shipping players off because we can't afford to lose any more games, quite frankly. In a 12-team league in which 6 make the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, let me just confirm this just off of just anecdotal experience here. Let's see here. Yeah, so just off of anecdotal experience, in order to make the playoffs in a top 6 capacity, you got to have at least 7 wins from my experience. Base minimum 7, to which you would have to theoretically win 6 of the next, what? 6 of the next 9 games. In order to accomplish that, you could end up waiting for the return of these guys. Hampton has to go. He doesn't have to because you have Haskins. No, you don't have to move him. But I would feel like if your upcoming schedule here doesn't look pretty, with bye weeks coming down the line, and upcoming week 8 bipocalypse coming down the line, those are guys that I'm probably looking to ship. I go to a team that's 4-1, 5-0, and try to see if they'll give me an actual solid wide receiver in return. If they can, sounds good. If they won't, then you just have to pray and just hope. I mean, you still have studs. Like, you still have McConkey and Sutton that can give you feasibly solid weeks here. You got good depth, which means you drafted well. It's just a matter of, like, to survive, it's really just you have to, in a double flex format, really, oh man, I don't think you can afford it. Like, you have Lamb, Evans, and Pearsall injured. In a double flex league with Hampton also out, I mean, brother, yeah, just try to go and see someone will give you some sort of semblance of help for Lamb. If not, fingers crossed. We just have to hope that we can pull together something here in the not too distant future. Perk Nowitzki says, pick up Mixon and drop Gainwell or Tootin. Yeah, I'll just get rid of Tootin at this point. I'd rather just have Mixon as my lottery ticket. I have Genty, Mason, Haskins on roster. Yeah, that works. Carnage says, in a 10-team PPR, I'm 5-0. Do I trade? Trade. Receiving Bucky and Tedderall and McMillan and giving Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Scat. Yeah, no, I'm okay. Just give me Scat and Amon-Ra rest of the season. Don't need this trade. Not interested. I just don't. I don't understand the trade. Doesn't make sense to me. In a PPR, I'd much rather have Amon-Ra rather than Bucky. And I think, yes, Tedderall McMillan has a lot of potential for upside going forward. But looking at your running back depth, Dowdle is a fleeting commodity. Harvey's yet to do anything. Charbonnet has to score touchdowns every week. I'm keeping what I have. Thank you. Unless, again, you're giving this. No, keep what you have. Tan Fam says, in a half PPR, Wandell Robinson or Michael Carter. I'd rather have Michael Carter this week in the flex, probably. Yeah. Considering the half PPR, I'd rather have Michael Carter. Mo Money says, send May and BTJ for Hurts. Team in the comments. The thing is, Justin Fields is better than Jalen Hurts right now. So I just don't understand why we are moving BTJ when we don't have to. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, when I look at the potential, what we are getting from Justin Fields, I feel like you should just be happy with the incredible production that he's put forth, to which you don't need to lose wide receiver depth in a double flex, double wide receiver format. Like, Fields right now is putting up 21.6 points per game, and that is honestly an actual, that doesn't even do him justice, because in the one game in which is really slogging down his point per game production, it's a game in which unfortunately he left due to concussion protocol. So if we really want to take into account what he's producing on an average basis, like, let your boy just pull up a calculator real quick. His last 3 games have been 29.5 plus 27.14 plus, let's see here, 25 divided by 3. He's averaging 27.5 points per game. I don't know why we're trading for anybody that's, I mean, you don't have to. It doesn't make sense. If somebody wants May off your team, that's cool. But giving BTJ in this circumstance, I'd honestly just rather hold BTJ and hope that he becomes something more than he currently is. Josh sends in a question, says, rest of season, Johnston or Pickens? It's a really good question. I would probably lean towards, considering CeeDee Lamb's eventual return. Damn, that's a really good question. me see here. Actually, I think that question gets answered by me looking at the schedule, which then I have to do a full breakdown of rest of season strength of schedule, specifically even towards the playoffs, to which I think that would incite a little bit more of where I'm going in terms of the direction of this trade. That's sheesh. That's not easy. For right now, I want to say that the way that Dak Prescott's playing, I think I'd rather have Pickens. I'd have to look at the, let me see here. Cowboys schedule. Like, I look at their back end of the schedule: Philly, Kansas City, Detroit, Minnesota, Los Angeles, Washington, and I just see like shootout, 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 shootout. I think I actually just keep Pickens in this circumstance. Or if you're going to trade something for Dobbins, it would be Johnston between the two of them. Thank you. All right, DC sends in a question. DC says, flex 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs in a PPR. I'm 2 and 3. I have HN, Bucky, White, QJ, Rico. Okay, so that's like Quinshawn Judkins, Rico Dowdle, Carter, Great Bill, Waller. Owner for Ibuka. Waller, owner of Ibuka, 1 and 4. He has Hampton and needs running back desperately. Understood now. How do I get Ibuka? How do I start? Okay, who do I start this week? Okay, so here's the question here. In terms of how you could get Ibuka, you would probably, if they're in great need of running back, okay, and theoretically speaking, you have Achane, Bucky White, Quinshawn Judkins, Rico Dowdle, Carter, and Bill Krosky Merritt. I think the way you probably get Ibuka, you're going to have to 2 for 1, genuinely, which I don't love. Like, you'd have to give Quinshawn Judkins, I mean, I don't mind it. You're going to have to give Quinshawn Judkins and Bill. That's what you're going to have to do. Because no one's taking Bucky and White off you. I don't think they would, at least, because of the injury and the risk there. I think Achane is somebody that I'd probably keep out of the rest between, Quinshawn Judkins and Bill. That's probably how you can accomplish it. You could probably send Quinshawn Judkins and JCM for Ibuka, but you'd probably try to get Hampton as well. To which maybe you send like Quinshawn Judkins, JCM, and Rico or Carter, and see if he'll give you Ibuka and Hampton in return. Fingers crossed. Tyler Nuncio says, hey, Andrew, one of my league's mates dropped Matthew Golden. Should I drop Romeo Dobbs and pick him up? No, I just keep Dobbs there. We're fine. Austin Hoover says, full PPR, stick with Hunter Henry or switch to Mason Taylor. I have BTJ, Pearsall, Jordan Mason, and Keenan Allen. Is it worth picking up McLaurin, Jalen Warren, Chase Brown, or Jennings? Do I replace GD5 with Baker with Stafford? Okay. There's a lot of questions here. Hunter Henry this week. Do I want to replace him is the first question with Mason Taylor. No. Keep it as is. I'm fine with what it is right now. I actually like the matchup against New Orleans. They've gotten beat up by many of tight ends. So I'll keep Hunter Henry for now in the lineup. As for picking up potential options, I really do like the idea of picking up any of these players right here. These 3, McLaurin, Warren, and Chase Brown. If you could pick up McLaurin and throw him on your IR, I think that would be preferred. As of right now, like probably Pearsall's filling that position. I think in terms of long-term value, I think I'd rather just have McLaurin than Pearsall. And I'd honestly rather have Chase Brown over Jordan Mason. To which, if these are all bench options, that's how I go about it in a PPR format. As for dropping JD or Baker for Stafford, no, I'd keep them both. Thank you. Ryan sends in a follow-up, says, do I trade Godwin for Stevenson in a PPR? My team has Waddle, Pittman, Devontae Smith. Godwin for Stevenson. Olave, Jordan Mason, Godwin, Gibbs, Scat, Haskins, Benson. I mean, you could. I don't see why not. If you want to make the trade, you can. I don't love Stevenson, but I don't really love Godwin either in comparison to the rest of the field of receivers you have. So, yeah, if you want to make the trade, you can. Rogo sends in a question, says, was talking about running back stash Sean Tucker or the others? No, I'm aware. Oh, it's not true. Okay, yeah. So Isaiah Davis. You're good there. Thank you. Emily Doyle says, drop Marvin or Devontae or Keenan for Rashad. Rashad White, correct? If you were going to pick up Rashad White, Keenan Allen would theoretically be the drop, technically speaking. Papa Bless sends in a question, says, would you trade Jamar, Scat, and Devontae Smith for Adams, Judkins, and Debo? Ooh, baby, baby, baby. Technically, I think it's fair. Yeah, I think it's fair. I don't mind that. Yeah, sounds good to me. That works. Primarily because when I look at Judkins and Scat, I think they have very comparable value. But when we look at Adams and Debo, I think they're the more valuable duo in comparison to Devontae Smith and Jamar Chase. So that works for me. Thank you. All right, let's see here. We move on to a question from Twisted Folk, who says, in a half PPR, I'm thinking of to trade my Pittman and Swifts for Rice or Garrett. That's cool with me. I don't mind going either the way. It says too lofty? No, I don't think so. Look, Swift hasn't really done much unless he wakes up and the offensive line starts moving bodies and he starts actually reading the blocks and ahead of him. He's going to kind of continue to be the middle of the pack, low end, kind of RB2, high end RB3. So yeah, I don't mind the trade for either of these two receivers going forward at all. That works for me. Easy E sends in a question. Thank you, Easy. I appreciate it, my man. Says, having a tough time as to who to pet in my flex this week and a half PPR. Montgomery, Metcalf, BTJ, Mason, Taylor, or Sutton. As of this week, considering the available options, in a half PPR, I honestly, if you're worried about the Sutton matchup against Sauce Gardner, I don't blame you. I would just play Montgomery there at that point. Thank you. Alessandro says, pick 2 out of Scat, Walker, and Michael Carter. I'll just take these 2. Kyler's injury... The matchup, don't love it. I'll just take Walker and Scat. Thank you. Ferguson sends in a question. Says, I'm 1-4 in a 10-team full PPR league. We have the following roster. Please help. Interesting. Okay, so you have Fields, Dowdle, Bijan, London, Rome, Njoku, Sutton, Chase Brown, Michael Carter, Quinston. So is it Quentin Johnston or is it Quinston Judkins? I don't know. I'm going to assume that it's, I don't know what that is. Mason, Pearsall, Mason, Taylor, and BTJ, please. Okay. I mean, looking at your team as a whole, you have the best quarterback in fantasy right now with Fields. You have Dowdle, who's coming off a great week and has another startable week ahead of him. You have Bijan, who is arguably, he's arguably the best running back in fantasy. I understand that, of course, Christian McCaffrey's doing some diabolical business, but eventually it's going to fall off. London's fantastic. Rome is fantastic. Njoku's finally gotten him some life into him. Sutton is going to be continuously great. Honestly, I don't think you have to make a move. Like, in the event in which you want to, I'm just curious as to who Quinston is. Like, who do we... let me see here. Nothing. No context. Currently 1-4 because Chase Brown and BTJ, despite having Bijan Robinson, currently have Dowdle as my RB2. Since Hampton is on my IR, London, Sutton, and Adunze are my current wide receivers. Should I trade for someone? I don't think you have to. I think this is the best team I have seen that has a 1-4 record, genuinely, Turd. So keep it as is, man. I don't think you have to make a move, genuinely. Sugar sends in a question. Says, send away Jamar and Derrick Henry for Debo and Gibbs. I have Amon-Ra, Devontae, Brees as my other starters. I don't think I make that trade, no. I think I keep it as is, genuinely. At that point, I think I'd keep. If you're completely out in terms of your record, like let's say you're 1-4 right now, 0-5, and you can't afford to have Derrick Henry continue to be just a mid-tier running back, option, then sure, you can make a trade of this caliber. Otherwise, I probably just keep and just hold on. Let's see here. DC says Drake London for Bill. No way, right? No. I mean, I'd rather have Drake London rest of the season. Shoes sends in a question. Says full PPR, Mason Taylor or Wando Robinson? A really good question. I mean, I'm actually curious. They play against Denver, and Denver is predominantly playing man. And Mason Taylor's not the greatest against man coverage in specific. I can confirm. I'll go over that tomorrow. I'd probably go with Wandell there, to be honest. Io Manor or Sterling Shepard. I'd only play Sterling Shepard in the event in which we have Godwin missed this week, I think. That's the only time I would. Thank you. Ibrahim says, my bad. On harping on this, I'm 4-1. I got offered Lamar for T. Higgins and Scat. Ooh, not as interested anymore. I'd rather give away the DK Metcalf and T. Higgins combo that you were mentioning earlier. I have CMC. Yep. In this case, I'd rather give DK and I'd rather give Higgins. I'm not moving Scat in this circumstance. Thank you. Renzo says, trade Chase Brown Strader for Rome Odunze. Abso-fucking-lutely. Yes, please and thank you. Excuse my language. Give me Rome Odunze. I'm excited about that. Daniel says, in a 10-team half PPR starters, Baker, Genti, Kyron, Puka, Igbuka, Waller, Kamara. Okay. Bench consisting of such. Any moves at the flex or hold? I mean, looking at your potential, we have Evans, we have Ricky, we have DJ Moore, we have Woody, we have Benson, we have Andrews. Man, you have so many injuries. Look, I think as a core, your team is ridiculously strong with these players. Okay? Genti, Kyron, Puka, Igbuka, Baker. Really strong. Kamara, again, you can wait on until Evans, Ricky Pearsall, DJ Moore come back healthy, wake up, etc., to which you can survive. I don't think there's a necessity to have him make a move because I don't want to trade any of these players here. Baker, Genti, Kyron, Puka, Igbuka. Like, theoretically speaking, if someone can give you a trade where you cannot refuse to where they're giving you Gibbs and, I don't know, Garrett Wilson, sure, maybe we'll just we'll trade Puka away. But in the event in which, yeah, I think you just hold. I don't think there's a necessity to have to make any moves here. Obviously, we want to improve on Kamara and what he provides on a weekly basis, but I think Evans is going to probably fill in that spot when he returns. So, yeah, unless you make some sort of 1-for-2 trade, that's the only way in which I see a potential of improving that flex. Until, of course, Kamara maybe, wakes up in the not-too-distant future, hopefully. Danny Orton says, hey, Andrew, I have 2 trade offers. They're in the chat. Okay. Trade Sutton for AJ and Terry. So is that AJ Brown? Okay. I would probably be willing to make that trade. Trade Judkins for Pollard and Pittman. Not as interested in that. I'm 3-2. As of right now, I don't mind the idea of going after this because it gives you the wide receiver depth that you require, considering your wide receivers are Sutton, Jacoby, Wandell, and Golden, to which, again, Jacoby, Wandell, and Golden are very much so unsustainable as of this moment. Maybe in the future they can, potentially provide more value, but I think what AJ and Terry could provide in the long term is the correct play in this circumstance. So that's the trade that I would make. Thank you. Appreciate it, Danny. Okay, after Danny Orton's question, we had one from Shakespeare, interesting name. Not Shakespeare, but Shakespeare. Hey man, Henderson and Charbonnet, I have Hampton out in a full PPR. Okay, that's a really good question. Look, I want to hope that the answer is Henderson, but I don't actually trust Henderson at all. So I probably just tell you to play Charbonnet there and assume that Kenneth Walker is so good at football that he'll get him into the red zone and he'll punch him in for 20, at least 1 touchdown, can score 10 points minimum this week. So Charbonnet is probably my answer because unless Henderson's falling in the end zone, which based on the usage, I don't expect that to be the case. Thank you. Sin City Raider says, hey, Andrew, do I start Kittle? Who do I start until Kittle is back? Theo, Jordan Mason, Tongs, or Fannin? As of this week, based on recent production against that Philadelphia defense, Darius Slayton being, I think Theo Johnson's the play. That's the direction I'm leaning towards. I'm actually curious. Let me see what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do against tight ends. I know Barner just went off against them. So did Dallas Goedert. Down in the red zone, they have trouble with tight ends. I could justify it probably going like Theo Johnson or Tongs here. Theo Johnson's probably going to be the one that leads the pack in my mind as of right now. Thank you. Bathroom Cake says, trade Nico for Genti or other running back. Need a running back badly. I like Genti here, especially with the upcoming matchup against Tennessee. It helps. That works for me. Stoney and Bear says, what wide receiver value would you trade Laporta for in a full PPR? I don't think you can get much in return. If you can go get Devontae Smith, I'm okay with that. But ultimately, Chris Olave could be an answer in a full PPR, but I don't think you'll be able to get away with that either. Like if we're just looking at names in terms of wide receiver, just to kind of throw it up on screen as to my top 36 for this week from earlier today's video, Sam Laporta, I'd have a hard time thinking he's going to pull anyone in that top 27. Maybe you can go get T. Higgins, maybe. In hopes that, Joe Flacco revives T. Higgins this season. But I have a hard time thinking that anybody in that top 27 in a full PPR is going to be hauled away for Laporta. To which if you can try, go for it. In the event in which you can go after maybe Addison, who's on a bye week, that could be a potential option. But Laporta, I don't think is going to pull as much value as you may assume, considering how many tight ends off of the waivers just recently are trying to kind of get into the mix, into that top 2 conversation. Thank you. All right, continuing on, we had a question from DC. says QJ and pick 1 for Egbuka. BTJ, Pearsall, Ridley, Coker. Does that get it done? I don't think so. I would assume that if you're going to send QJ, you're going to have to probably add BTJ to it. And even that, I don't even know if they'll take. I think that's a question, but definitely one that you can try. You can try to send QJ and BTJ for Egbuka. I mean, I would first start with Pearsall, Ridley, or Coker. Maybe all Pearsall and maybe Ridley and QJ is probably the way that I start. Maybe Pearsall or QJ. And if push comes to shove, maybe it's BTJ and QJ that'll get it done. Andrew sends in a question, says trade K9/Nico/Kyler for ETN, Marv, Ridley, and Goff. I have Pickens, Drake London, and my wide receivers, Scat, Tootin, Henderson, Aaron Jones at running back. Okay, so if we're moving Kenneth Walker and Nico Collins and Kyler, and we're getting back the likes of Ridley, getting back the likes of ETN, Marvin, Harrison. So ETN is better than Kenneth Walker. That's a given. Nico is significantly better than Marv. I don't want Ridley. I don't really want Goff either. Unless somebody else is on your... I think I just keep what you have. I'd rather just have this side and go pick up a quarterback off waivers, genuinely. Anthony O sends in a question, says Derrick Henry or Hassan? Rashad's my RB1. I think I just have to play Derrick Henry here. I think the Rams are... The Rams could show up. I have a feeling they won't defensively. And they'll find a way to give Derrick Henry 10 points. To which I take it. Monel Patel says Josh Allen, Egbuka, CD, Ridley, K9, Swift, Dobbins, Mooney, Pacheco. I need to improve my team. Any advice? I mean, looking at the team as a whole, until CD Lamb returns, that's really the only issue here. Because ultimately, Josh Allen, Egbuka, CD Lamb, K9, Dobbins, and then Swift as like your potential flexible play is okay. I don't have an issue with that team. To which, can you improve? I mean, you could try to ship Ridley, but until CD comes back, you can't. So this is a team in which you have to wait. If you wanted to try to make a Swift improvement, you would have to ship away a Josh Allen to try to get 2 pieces in return, Egbuka for 2 pieces, CD Lamb in a 1-for-1 or maybe 1-for-2. You'd have to ship away your best players if you were wanting to improve greatly. Otherwise, you hold on to it and just wait until maybe Ridley puts up another big performance, CD comes back, then you ship Ridley. Rob says, assuming Kamara is traded, Fab to spend on Kendre, you would unload the clip on Kendre at that point, genuinely. But it's under the assumption. But I don't think he's going to be, based on the fact that as of right now, I'm not really hearing much on it. I mean, I would just say preemptively, why not just go pick up Kendre for free right now, Big Cat says, hey, go start Njoku with Flacco. Flacco is not playing with Njoku, so I'm confused about that. Or Mason Taylor. So as of right now, I'm still going to play Njoku with Dylan Gabriel, so that works for me. By the way, Flacco plays for the Bengals, if you weren't aware. Kamara or Olave at the flex. I'll take Olave. You know what? No, actually, if Kamara's healthy this week, I probably just play Kamara and hope for a bunch of receptions. Says also I have T-Law. Do I pick up Tua or Darnold and trade for someone better? Just pick up Darnold. That's good for me. And then in that case, in which you have an opportunity to trade for someone better in the future, sure. Looking for clarity, why Isaiah Davis over Tracy stash? Yeah, just in case Breece Hall gets traded. That's the only reason. Otherwise, Tracy, I think he's lost his job, is going to require a lot more potential touches than you would imagine to be fantasy relevant on a weekly basis. Pretty much kind of lives in a Pacheco role where he maybe gets like 5, 6, 7 touches a week, if lucky. Juan Vaca Ramirez has questions in the chat, if that's okay. Yeah. Should I make a trade for a better wide receiver? My lineup is Murray, Etienne, Javonte, Worthy, DK Sutton. No, I don't think you are already looking at the roster as a whole. With Bucky eventually coming off, you have JCM, you have a lot of tight ends. I mean, ultimately, I think if you're going to make a trade for a wide receiver, you do so via tight ends. You take Njoku and Kittle to a team that's desperate for tight end, desperate for tight end. You give them both, and you take a wide receiver in return. That's how I would probably go about it in the event in which you are looking for it. So go find a team that's tight end needy or really likes Kittle and Njoku and try to get some wide receiver help in return. That's the way that I would go about it. All right, guys. How long have I been here for? About an hour and a half. Okay. So I'm going to continue to answer a couple more questions in the live chat, and then we're going to go ahead and close it out today. I do appreciate y'all coming through. I'll be back tomorrow talking about quarterbacks and tight ends of course, at a top 16 capacity. Additionally, I'll be back tomorrow night with a live stream after the Thursday night matchup between the Eagles and the Giants. And then, of course, I will be back on Friday with some hidden gem opportunities in which we can explore. A couple reminders, again, like I've mentioned before, if you guys want my rankings every single Sunday morning for the remainder of the season, of course, make sure you check out the map to the right side of the screen to determine your eligibility via the sign up opportunity via Betr. Get new users who sign up today using code Andrew, get a free $10. And additionally, again, you'll get those rankings sent from my email directly to yours after using the code when signing up, making a first-time deposit minimum of 10, and then, of course, making a first-time play within a real cash play, picking more or less on two-player statistics. Otherwise, if you guys want to get those rankings every Thursday, Sunday, or, of course, be able to ask me any and all fantasy football-related questions via the Patreon Messenger and Discord, you can check out Patreon. There's a link down in the description. Thank you very much. Okay, let's get into answering the final couple questions of this evening, and then we'll close it out. Let's see here. I see Juan Vaca. We took care of that. Says, should I trade for a better wide receiver? Also, should I pick up Darnold or Jones? Yeah, you should probably pick up Daniel Jones because Murray. Yeah, that's my thought process. Thank you. Bobby Robles says, thoughts on trading Romeo Doubs? I'd be giving away Cup. Trading for Romeo Doubs, huh? I'm okay trading Cup for that. I don't have an issue with that at all. Murica says, I think Flacco saves Chase Brown. He checks down far more than Browning, almost double. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that's going to be the case. From your mouth to the fantasy god's ears. Let's see here. Constantino, what's up, man? Says PPR, I need to drop Jameson or Shakir for a kicker this week. Also, who's left for Godwin on the waivers? Look, as of right now, I would wait before picking up a kicker. See what the status of Amon-Ra St. Brown's wrist injury is before we continue on to potentially dropping a Jameson in this circumstance. Thank you. Says, should I drop Tyrone Tracy? I mean, you don't have to. I mean, he's pretty much the handcuff to Scats right now. Arthur says, can you answer my question about a trade I made? Yeah, let me see what you have here. Let me go and check. Arthur, you're just going to have to retype in your question because it's not currently in the live chat. Thanks. Appreciate it. All right, let's see here. Apple Season says, can you check the live chat? Yeah, let me see what you had here. It says, I have Caleb Williams. I have Achane. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Caleb Williams, Achane, Charbonnet, Jacoby Myers, Devontae Smith, Darren Waller, Ryan Flournoy. Wow, you're really in a rough spot, huh? Chubb, Omarion Hampton, Nico Collins, George Kittle, Jordan Love, Mooney, Purdy, Mixon. Okay, so just the context of that alone, you're definitely in a really rough spot this week. If I trade Hampton, who for? I mean, in the event in which you're trading Omarion Hampton, in terms of potential running backs that I want in return, because the final 2 weeks in which, Hampton was healthy, the guy was putting up 20 points per week. So I'm willing to take a discount purely off the fact that he's not going to play for the next 4 games, but I still want some comparable value in return, to which if I'm going to move him, I would like at least maybe somebody of the caliber of Quinshon Judkins, maybe Breece Hall, Scat. Those are the kind of players I want in return. At least Derrick Henry. That's how I'd play it. That's how I have to play it at that point. Bucky Irving. But I don't think people are trading injured for injured. Murica says that's this year's stats. Browning at 15%, Flacco at 22 to 28%, career 25 to 28%. Yeah, it's all those checkdowns to Danny Woodhead all those years ago that really started to push his numbers up over his career, right? You guys remember those days for the Ravens? Those are classics. Rico, Carter, or Montgomery? It's got to be Rico this week. Should I start Derrick Henry or David Montgomery? I'd probably just play David Montgomery there just to be safe with it. Can I roll out Taysom Hill this week? Probably not. I'd give it another week before we go ahead and commit to that. If we end up seeing Kamara is not playing this week, then maybe we can go about it. But until then, no. Hey Andrew, I think might be the best I'm doing right now. I used to be got it. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but I'm glad to help. Okay, thanks, man. I mean, the idea of doing Vegas projections is not a bad way of going about it. because you'd assume that Vegas has the inside scoop of everything, right? But there's a lot to it that's just obviously, there's more nuance to that, obviously. But yes, I appreciate the support, my man. Stafford or Daniel Jones? Ooh, I'd probably go Stafford this week. I feel like they're just going to pour it on. Should I trade away Hubbard for ETN? Yes, absolutely. Hi, Andrew. Choose two between the flex, Ja'Cory Cross, Merritt Henderson, Jacoby, Shakir, Michael Carter. I think Ja'Cory Cross, Merritt has to play. Hendo, Jacoby. I probably play Jacoby Myers next to him because I'm probably expecting Bowers not to play this week. Is Chase Brown and K9 for Adunze a good trade? I think you're giving up a lot there for just one singular player. If you can get another piece back in return, like if you're going to send away 2 running backs and get none in return, I think the question then becomes a matter of like, what does your running back depth look like? You know what I mean? Because that really is a big difference maker. If your running back depth is solidified and you've got 3 starters outside of those 2, then sure, we can make a trade of that caliber. Smitty, what's up? So sit 1, Garrett Wilson, Worthy, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers. As of right now, Zay Flowers would be my sit. Also, Denver's defense or LA Rams. I'd rather just play Denver's defense. Breo sends in a question, says flex PPR Kendre, Kamara, Golden, DJ Moore, Sharps. Depending on whoever Kamara Kendre ends up being, that's the guy who starts this week. Thank you. Kincaid or Henry PPR, I just go with Kincaid there. Actually, no, Henry's got a really good matchup against New Orleans. I'll just take Henry there. But man, both are really good. Ken Kaplan says, would you trade Scat for Ted Earl McMillan? Probably not. If you're in need of wide receiver depth and you have enough wide running backs to kind of suffice, then sure. But I have a hard time thinking with the current way that fantasy is shaped in this season that you have enough running backs to make a trade of that caliber. All right, final couple questions of this evening. We had Tyler Key send in a question. Tyler, thank you very much. I don't see anything attached to it, so once you get an opportunity, let me know. I'm desperate need of a wide receiver. I have crazy wide receiver depth in a shallow league. I see. Let's see here, Daniel. Where's your question, Daniel Horn? Is Chase Brown? Okay, got it. I'm desperate for a wide receiver. I have crazy... Says, I'm desperate need of a wide receiver. I have crazy wide receiver depth. I'm assuming you mean you have a crazy running back depth. So yeah, in the event in which that is, oh yeah, it says, sorry, RB depth, I mean. Yeah, then you take the trade. You take Roma Dunze there. Thank you. Sounds good to me. Tyler Key says, hey, Andrew, your videos have helped me go from 0-2 to 3-2. Beautiful. Glad to hear it. Any trades on or hold? Let's see. We have May, we have JSN, we have AJ Brown, we have CMC, we have Dowdle, we have Tyler Warren, Sutton. Okay. Look, as of right now, looking at the team across the board, once you get Nico Collins back, I don't think I'm making any moves except for I'm going to try to secure another RB, but you do have Kamara, Chase Brown, and Montgomery, to which I don't think there's a necessity to make a move, but in the event in which there's a possibility in which you can buy low on a running back, I mean, you have two of those technical buy low options, which is Kamara and Chase Brown. Otherwise, and you have Kenneth Walker, brother, don't make any moves. You're fine. If you want to, you can maybe send 2 of those running backs and try to go get Derrick Henry now before the week 8 return after the bye in Lamar's return. You could try to explore that, and I think that's a possibility in which you could end up getting some value in return in the long run. Thank you. Yeah, that's the way I go about it, Alan. Oh, that's not Alan's question. That's Tyler Key. Sorry about that. Okay, Alan's next question. Excuse me. Okay, you know what I want to do really quickly? I probably just want to throw it up on the screen. But this room is getting so hot, and I want to end the stream just so I can get out of this room. Okay, so I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to throw the chat back up because I thought I was about to leave, but it doesn't seem like I am. So in that case, I'm not going to leave. All I'm going to do is I'm going to readjust this, and then I'm going to get back to answering questions, shall we? Continuing on. Okay, let's see here. Where are we at? So we took care of Breo, we took care of Tyler. Alan says, I'm currently 2-3 at the moment. My team is Jalen Hurts, Judkins, Etienne, Lamb, Nico, Warren, okay, Rice, Evans. Pretty solid team across the board, to say the least. Now, obviously 2-3, with Nico on bye, Lamb injured, Rice suspended, and Evans injured. You're in a pretty tough position. But once they all return, it's a really good makings for a roster that can definitely push for the playoffs. Says my bench consists of Marks, who's on a bye week as well, Shakir, Gainwell, White, JMO, and you also have a Hampton injury. Jeez, brother, the fact that you have all these injuries and you're still 2-3 is actually quite remarkable, to be honest. Probably losing this week, but I feel good about next week. Yeah, I think you're in a pretty solid position. Ultimately, with a 2-3 record, I think the only question that I begin to ask myself is how many teams play in this league? Subsequently, how many teams make the playoffs? If it's like a 10-team league and 6 make the playoffs, again, I think 7 wins gets the job done to where you're fine keeping it as is. You can just keep it pushing and you're fine. Says, thanks for your work, man. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you, Alan. Okay, so yeah, in regards to how we're going about this, Alan, I would just keep, brother. I don't think there's a necessity to have to make a move. Like, obviously, I don't need to make any move. We have Tyler Warren. We have Rosh. Yeah, you're fine. It's not even Jalen Warren. I'm assuming that's Tyler. You're good, man. I don't care about losing this week. I'm looking towards getting Nico, Lamb, and Rice back in the lineup. Evans back in the lineup. And once they do, I think you'll just tear apart the league. Buzz Ellis says, trade CeeDee Lamb, Tedderole McMillan for Josh Allen, Sutton, and Brees. In the event in which you cannot afford to wait for CeeDee Lamb to return, Josh Allen is a huge upgrade, then sure, I make this move. Otherwise, if you've got a solid quarterback and this trade isn't a necessity because of your record being, let me see here. Do you have any other context? Depending, like let's say you're at 1-4 and this is going to make the biggest difference because you just can't afford to make any more losses, 0-5 maybe, then sure. But otherwise, the question is like, who's your quarterback? How big of an upgrade is Josh Allen? How much value are we losing off of CeeDee Lamb here? Do we need the running back depth because of injury? Maybe you lost Connor, maybe you lost Hampton recently. You need to get Brace Aston, to kind of provide some more depth. The more context you provide, the easier it'll become. If any of that is even remotely true, then yes, I make this trade for this side. Equan sends it a question. Thank you very much. Says, I traded for... So basically you have Bijan as your other running back. And you're going to have basically Jacobs alongside of him. You have AJ Brown, JSN, Marv. Yeah, you're fine, brother. I mean, it's a really solid team. So I love the trade. Sounds good to me. Thank you. I'm actually curious if Buzz had any more context. No? Okay, we're good. Let's get back to the live chat, see what we're doing. Wasn't trying to slam it. Yeah, look, here's the thing. Mason and I, we're mutuals. I've talked to him in the past. Very cool guy. Not a problem. I think, what he does is, I've mentioned this in the past. I don't really see the fantasy kind of space here on YouTube as any sort of like competition. I see it as like everybody's contributing to continue to make this thing bigger. When the tide raises all ships in the form of him continuing to bring people as viewership in this space, I think it's incredible. Daniel Jones or Caleb Williams, who do I roll? I probably go with Caleb this week. I think it's a really good position there. Walker for Debo. Yeah, I don't mind that under the assumption that you need wide receiver depth. Walker, again, is very hard to start going forward. It's a crucial night. No, I get it. Let's see here. Swollen says, would you trade BTJ for Ladd and DeAndre Swift / Chase Brown? Yeah, I would. Give me Ladd and give me Chase Brown. And I'll run into the hills. Panda says, which two do I start in a non-PPR? Quentin Johnston, Metcalf, AJ Brown? I'd probably just go AJ Brown and Quentin Johnston just to be safe. 26 bands up says, start Kyler, Tua, or Jones. I just take Daniel Jones there. Kyler's injured. Tua's unstartable because he's just not trustable. Yo, Andrew, thanks for answering the questions earlier. Also, really need to know who to start at quarterback, Caleb Love or Purdy. Caleb would be my suggestion. Purdy, I don't think plays this week. He had a setback with his injury, and Love is a little bit of a lesser option considering Josh Jacobs and his rushing upside. Caleb's for sure my play there. Etienne or Judkins, PPR rest of the season? That's a really good question. I feel like I think I want my answer to be Judkins, but I think Etienne has just done too much for me to ignore it. So I would probably stick with Etienne in this circumstance. Would you trade Scat for JCM? Gwen, I don't mind it. Yeah, I don't mind that. Look, here's the thing. What I've seen from JCM is his offensive line knows how to block. They get Sam Cosmi back. They're trending in the right direction. I'd rather have the running back associated with that offense than the New York Giants going forward. So yeah, I don't mind that. It's very risky, I will admit to it. But Gwen, I've seen your teams, and they're all stacked. So I don't mind the upside that it presents to go in that direction. I meant Mac Jones, my fault. Yeah, I'd still go with Caleb there. I think Mac Jones is a monster, but as of right now, I'd still go with Caleb. Frenzy says I'm 2-3. I have Nico as my. Okay, let's see what the question is in specific here. Offered me Devontae Adams for either Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnson, or Flowers for Nico. Someone offered me Adams for either Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnson, or Flowers for Nico. So it's 4 Flowers or this or is supposed to be a 4, and that or 4 is supposed to be an or. I'm assuming that's what you got me. You got me messed up here. I'm legitimately so confused because I'm like, this is not English. Okay, so I think I know what you're saying. Somebody is offering you Devontae Adams and Quentin Johnston for Flowers and Nico, to which I would be more than happy to take Devontae Adams and Quentin Johnston there. If you're in, at 2-3, I'm okay with that. Emily Doyle says, I forgot to, I already dropped Keenan Allen to put Pearsall back into my bench. Drop Devontae or Harrison for Rashad White. I don't like either of it, but if you had to, it's technically Devontae Smith. Johnny Kilroy says, my roster is Nixon. It's not Richard Nixon. Nix Jefferson. I saw Nix and then I saw Sun and that was interesting. Okay. Ekpuka, Achane, Jacobs, McBride, Judkins, Diggs, Rice, Dowdle. Okay, pretty solid team. Any suggestions as far as moves that I should make? I mean, looking at the team as a whole, Jefferson, Ekpuka, Achane, Jacobs, McBride, Judkins, Diggs, Rice. Brother, what moves do you have to make? You have Kittle, Hampton's eventually coming back. There's no need for a move here. The only thing that needs to be improved is technically, Bo Nix. Because when I look at the upcoming schedule for the Broncos, I mean, I don't love it. But at the same time, like, I don't hate it either. Giants, Cowboys, Broncos, Raiders after the Jets this week. Never mind. Keep it as is. Don't make any moves. You got a bunch of studs across the board. Thank you. Alan sends in a follow-up. Thank you, Alan. Says, questions in the comments. I'm going to assume that you're going to send it in just a moment. Devin says, Igbuka or Javonte rest of season PPR? I'd honestly rather just have Igbuka. Genuinely. He's that good. It's ridiculous. 3-2 PPR league mates want Amon-Ra St. Brown for Hall and Garrett Wilson. They want your Amon-Ra. They're going to give you Hall and Garrett Wilson. I countered with Ladd and Chuba for Hall and Higgins. Thoughts? If you can get Hall and Higgins for Ladd and Chuba, I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't have an issue with it at all. That works for me. Primarily because I expect Higgins to get back to being a 10-plus point per game contributor. In a full PPR, probably closer to 13. I think Hall is better than Chuba, especially considering Dowdle's probably not going away anytime soon. So, yeah, I don't mind that. Alan says, thoughts on making rest of season rankings video every so often through the season for future videos. Would be nice to get some guidance as far as shake up the top of the weekly rankings. Yeah, no, I understand. Listen, there's so much that goes into weekly rankings in itself in terms of the amount of research that I have to kind of provide and collect over the weekly basis, to which I can make those rankings on Sunday morning when I'm able to. Like, even this most recent week, I legitimately didn't sleep going into that Sunday morning live stream. That's how much information I was combing through to try to adjust my rankings, okay? So whenever I find time within these upcoming weeks, which I will, hopefully, fingers crossed, to make a rest of season rankings video, and I can actually sit down and spend time to really look over rest of season schedule and then subsequently every single player at all those 4 primary positions. When the opportunity presents itself, I will try to. Trust me. I know that's going to be very much so of value to you guys and would really help you in terms of guidance on like trades that you would look for. But it's just really just a matter of time in terms of like, do I have the time to contribute the required effort to make it accurate? Because I don't want to put it out there if it's not going to be of actual quality. It has to be accurate. And if it's not, I'm not going to put my name on it. I'm not going to stamp an approval on it and then make you guys make moves that are not going to come to, the best of your interest. So it's definitely difficult, but it's just a matter of, can I balance the time? Emily says, I don't have to. I won't. LOL. No. Listen, in terms of the potential, which you are theoretically picking up Rashad White to start him this week, he's a top 16 option. So, like, it makes sense. But in terms of rest of season, like, once Bucky comes back, I'd rather have Devontae Smith on roster in the long term. You know what I mean? Drop Travion for Bill. Yeah, Daniel, absolutely, without a doubt in my mind. Devin says Buka, Sutton, Warren, Egg Buka, or Henry, Rashi, Waddle rest of season. Wow. I think I'd rather have this side. I think Rashi Rice is going to be that legit to where it's going to be the gap closer. Thank you. Kendry or Tyjae Spears full PPR. Are we talking about starting this week? I think it just has to be. I mean, I don't like playing Kendry at all. I don't actually like playing either of these two players. I'd probably find another option somewhere out there on the waivers. But if you had to, theoretically, considering Alvin Kamara's got a little bit of an ankle, maybe Kendry's the answer. Spears, I just don't know what kind of an opportunity share it's going to look like. Andrew says, flex Michael Carter, Jacoby Myers, Henderson, Shakir. I mean, as of right now, it's probably Jacoby Myers under the assumption that Bowers misses again this week. Against Tennessee, it should be solid. Lucas Ramirez says, Andrew, I'm looking to make a move, but I'm not sure what move to make, okay? On and running back or wide receiver. I have Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua, Hall, Godwin, Henderson, Jawan. I mean, looking at the roster, we need wide receiver, to which, again, eventually Evans will return, but your priority should be revolving around wide receiver. Now, as to how you make a move in order to improve it, considering the roster you have constructed, I would probably take Haskins and see if I can trade it to the Hampton manager. Maybe throw Ridley on top of it and see if they'll give you a wide receiver. I think that's kind of the way that I make a move on this team. Because otherwise, I don't want to trade CMC, Puka, or Hall. And I want to keep Evans for the future, and I want to keep these two tight ends here. So can I get rid of Ridley and Haskins and potentially acquire a wide receiver? That's kind of how I would go about it. I was thinking rest of season. Okay, Emily, then just keep what you have. All right, final couple questions here, then we're going to close it out. I do appreciate y'all coming through. We have DC2130 who says, traded Devontae Smith and Brees for BTJ and Harvey. Did I make a big mistake? I don't like the trade. I'm going to be honest. I just don't like it. Primarily because I have so much high hopes for Brees Hall and his remainder of season value. You have Bijan, Cook, and White as your other running backs. So basically you have Bijan and Cook because White doesn't really count until Bucky returns. Need a wide receiver help? Okay. I mean, look, in the event in which you needed wide receiver help, I just don't know where, like, is BTJ going to be the guy going forward? For your sake, I hope so. I just don't know if that's going to be the answer. For your sake, I really do hope so, DC. But there's so much risk entailed in this that BTJ's got to be him. He's got to go back to being his normal self for this trade to be worth it. Chan Dimitri says Corum, Algier, or Spears. Running backs pick up due to injuries. If I'm going to play a running back out of this group, I'm probably playing Algier. Number 1, Corum 2, Spears 3, just because I don't know what Spears is going to look like. Clue sends in a question, says Rice for Rico and Harrison. I have. Yeah, if you're going to trade Rico, Dowdle, and Marvin Harrison, and you're going to get back Rashi Rice, I make that trade in a heartbeat, immediately. Thank you. Drake May sends in a question, says, hey, Andrew, should I trade Igbuka, Judkins, and ETN for HN and Bucky? No, I don't think you have to. I'm very comfortable with this trio going forward. Igbuka's he's too talented, and Judkins and ETN, in my mind, even though they don't have as much upside as Bucky and HN, I think they're very much so comparable enough to where I'm like, unless you're playing in an 8-team league where you have an all-star roster where your other wide receivers are Garrett Wilson, JSN, and Justin Jefferson, I don't make a trade of this caliber. Okay, let's see here. Oni says, thoughts on trading Haskins for Woody? I'm able to move Rico and T-Mac. Look, here's the thing. Mixon's coming back eventually. I don't know if we're making a move for Woody right now, especially when the report earlier today says that the Houston Texans coaching staff don't look at Woody. They don't look at Woody outside of being a primary receiving back. So I just don't. I mean, I don't need Woody. If you want to, you can make the move because Haskins is a 4-week fleeting value proposition, but it's not something that I'm like stuck to or attached to. I'm able to move Rico for T-Mac. That you make. That immediately. This, don't need it as much. Abram says Dowdle or Mason rest of season. I'd rather have Jordan Mason. I don't think, yeah, I'd rather just have Jordan Mason, clearly. Drop Tyler Loop for Brandon McManus. Yes, sounds good to me. I meant Rico and Harrison. I think that's what I got out of that, right? Didn't I? Let me see your clue. Rice for Rico and Harrison. Marvin Harrison. Yeah, I think I understood that. Yeah, we're good. Oh, I meant me get Rico and Harrison. No, I'd rather have Rashee Rice. I don't need that Rico part. Okay. Unless you have Chuba Hubbard and you're like really struggling. Would you trade Mike Evans for Brock Bowers? Yeah, I would. Genuinely, I would. If you have enough wide receiver depth to justify it. Trade Scat for JCM. JCM better offense, no Tracy. Honestly, yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't have an issue with it. Again, I'm willing to take the risk on JCM because I know, I mean, just look at him run, guys. He's moving. He's moving. I know he doesn't cause the defenders to get concussions by dipping his head down like Scat does, but it's just a different game. All right, guys, that's where I'm going to call it. I've been here for what? An hour and 48 minutes. I appreciate y'all. Again, I'll be back tomorrow with tight end and quarterback rankings. Additionally, live streaming tomorrow night. So if you have any questions, swing on by. Again, if you have any other questions regarding starter sit questions regarding your lineup and you want to catch me offline, you can check out the Patreon, get those rankings, all that kind of jazz. Or, of course, you can check out the Betr sign up and get those rankings every single Sunday morning for the remainder of the season. But that's where we're going to call it. I'm going to cue the double helix. Have a great rest of your night. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.